and we'll get started. Thanks for coming. We're going to talk today with Strengths with Brent and Jeff on our strength today is communication. Just so you know, at Augustana, 311 faculty, staff, and students have communication in their top 5. So amongst the 1,800 people pool, my quick math is was that 1 out of 6? So 1 out of 6 have communication. So it is not in my top 5. Brent, does this carry in your top 5?
No.
That's amazing because you love to talk.
That is true.
Well, that's good. So it's not in our top 5, but we've got Sharon and Jody and Carla here, and hopefully they can teach us something about communication today. All right? So I'll start us off with a question. What form of communication is the most important to you?
Clear.
So it's clarity.
I would say face-to-face.
Okay.
Although it's the hardest, but I would say face-to-face.
Is face to Zoom the same?
Yes. Yeah. I want to be able to see your face and hear the reflection in your voice to put the two together.
There's something about my I think, or maybe my value of communication, that when people are on Zoom and I don't see their face, I struggle with that. Like, Carla, I understand. I'm not trying to shame you into showing us.
Oh, just a little shame.
Your area.
Oh.
No, I'm not. I'm not at
all. All right. Here I am.
Oh, look, there she is. Oh my gosh, your place is way cleaner than mine.
No. You kind of glow too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I know. I should probably move that, but
no, I like it. It works.
I did not mean to shame you into showing yourself.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I'm serious. But my point is that seeing facial interactions is really important to me. We know that nonverbal communication is the majority of our communication. Actually, what is said isn't nearly as important as what is seen. And not having that is really a challenge in this time frame, right? We're in the COVID world and not even seeing the body language that's connected from here down, to see if somebody's fidgeting their legs or something like that. That tells you people are nervous or anxious or antsy or whatever that tells you. And not having that eliminates such an important part of our communication styles. So, Jody, what form of communication is most important to you?
I think the visuals and the nonverbals are important because you can pick up on a lot of cues. It is hard in a meeting if the people are distracted and so they have something else on their mind. And because I'm a WW coach, so, I have to get past some of the cues that I'm getting back from some of my members because you never know what's going through their minds. I mean, they may have just weighed in and not having a good time with that, but they still appreciate the message after a few minutes. So it's the most important, but then it's the hardest thing to get over.
Right. Carla, how about you? What form of communication? Is there anyone in particular that is important to you?
I'm the face-to-face kind of person too. I think like the text messaging, that type of electronic, I don't care for that at all. Got it.
Yeah. I teach students all the time. It's the right time of message for the right message, right? I'm happy to get a text that says, I'll be there in 2 seconds, or I'll be there in a minute, or please communicate with me something. But don't break up with me over text, right? There's something more important then.
Well, and I've used my daughter as an example. Like, I can remember when she was in high school and she was laughing hysterically at a text that she got, and I read it, and I read it snarky, and she read it funny, and I'm like, "Are you sure that's what that person meant?" And she's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Okay." There's just so much. If you're gonna communicate in writing, then I want more detail. You need to paint me a picture in writing. These one-line things don't work for me in writing because it leaves too much for my interpretation.
I love what you said there, Sharon, to point out the paint the picture. Because what you hear so often from people with communication is the connection of communicating via a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just information. It's tell me the story of what's happening and the why and the depth of it. It's not just, here's the facts, ma'am. It's, what is that, a Dragnet? Was that right? Is that a Dragnet reference? Just the facts?
So,
I'm sorry, Brent. That's before your time, too.
I have no idea, but that's
You're like,
okay.
I don't even understand Dragnet. Like, what's that word mean?
Look it up, Brent. You'll like it.
Everybody else here gets that. That's us, right? Joe Friday and just the facts. But communication is more than just give me information. I want to know the story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. We would, when I'm thinking about the kind of communication I like the best, I certainly do like face-to-face and, reading people's faces, but I love the written communication, partly for what Sharon was saying, which I like to be able to make sure that it is very, very clear and read it, make sure I'm saying what I want to say. I'll use italics to try to make my voice inflection show in the printed word, and I'll spend kind of an inordinate amount of time making sure that the message is what I want to say before I send it out.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you practice that then, Sharon? I mean, are you a I take a while to craft the right email person?
Yeah.
Yeah, very. What I find for my own emails is when I type an email and send it. Oh yeah. Not Carla's laughing because she's been the recipient for many of those in the business office. But yeah, I tend to write like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can't send that like to a student. So you have to pick your words so that you get the same meaning in this.
Mm-hmm.
But when I first start to write, I write the novel. I write the book I want to read, and this generation, they aren't going to read that. If it doesn't fit on their computer screen, they aren't going to read that. And so for those of us that come from that generation of long letters, it's relearning. It's relearning the words to use that say a sentence.
See,
Do you feel like that's like explaining, like, because you like that face-to-face interaction, like, do you feel like that's you trying to type out, here's the conversation I would have with you in person, but then here's me going through and editing, and now here's the bulk of what you're needing from me.
Now I'm down to just the facts, ma'am. That's what I'm down to. Which for me feels very impersonal. And so for work, I don't find that so, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Disheartening isn't the right word, but I don't feel that wrong or uncomfortable because it's work. But if I send my son a letter or I send my mom a letter, that's not going to work.
And Sharon, you and I, both Sharons, we were both in the empathy one too. Yeah. So empathy and communication together are a double whammy because they're trying to feel out how they're gonna sense it. And huge responsibility.
See, the problem I usually end up with is I'm going through the conversation in my head. So when I start to have a conversation with somebody, I forget that they haven't heard the entire conversation I've had in my head. So for me, it is very important to paint the picture, but I skip that step sometimes. And that's why face-to-face communication is best for me, because I can see the, what the heck are you talking about look on their face, and then I can figure out the step that I missed to explain it to them.
I'm questioning this idea that trying to think of how to phrase this. Like, if we're talking about needing the face-to-face and the storytelling and that, do you have like an editor, or do you need somebody in your office that you trust that can say, can you take this and break it down into a bite-sized piece? You know, Corey Kopp is a communication, and he used to write way too much. And I would be like, Corey, let me chunk this down for you, because it, you know, you're writing 500-word email to college student who really wanted to know 20 words in the middle of it. Do you have somebody at the office, or have you ever asked if there's somebody that you trust that you could work with that could say, help me shorten this?
Well, Carol can cut it down to 2 sentences. I'm just telling you, I don't know what her strengths are, but she can take a 500-word essay down to 2 sentences.
Well, that's, I mean, have you gone there and used that?
All the time, because
Yeah.
sometimes my wordy communication will get me in trouble.
Right.
You know, it will give them more information than what they asked for, which then creates 7 more questions. You know, not that it's not information they can't have. It's just, you asked me a question and I answered something else because I anticipated what was next. And I just, you know, so it's,
so are you thinking of
that picture?
So Sharon, are you thinking, I know that they're going to ask this next question, so I might as well answer it right now?
Sometimes, but sometimes I'm wrong.
You're also giving them another question to ask,
right,
that maybe they wouldn't think of, and now you've opened up a whole nother can of dialogue that maybe Carol's like, why are we bringing that topic up? Let's let them bring that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what has changed in a COVID world? Like, from, and I'll just say from our standpoint, we had weekly meetings. Well, it was daily for what, 2 months, Brent? It was daily meetings, and then it went to like 2 or 3 times a week, and now it's at twice, or, you know, it's at that pace right now. And Corey was amazing at using his communication to, here's everything that's happening right now, and he just kept a tally list. Fantastic communicator during that time where we all needed it, because everything was changing so fast and evolving on the moment-to-moment basis. Has there been anything that you've known that has changed during, or anything that you've noticed about yourself or your talent of communication that has become brought to the forefront because of COVID and because of the rapid pace of information flow right now? Maybe, maybe not.
Do you feel like you're, like, how you utilize your communication, since now we aren't all together, like, have you found maybe other areas of your life where you're trying to utilize your communication more, that maybe at work you got that when you were in person, but now you're noticing it in other areas of your life?
Like, I used to communicate all the time with colleagues and work people, and now I have this stuff I have to get out at the end of the day. thanks to Michael for putting up with me throughout the day or throughout the evening.
I am craving, I have a group that I'm a part of, and it's like I crave that time that I have even more so now. And we are still meeting on Zoom, but it is one of those things, I crave it even more.
Yeah.
I make a lot more lists now than I did before. Things that I want to remember to say or remember to do, or so that's different. I mean, as far as the business office goes, we're still meeting daily, so you still get that communication. But I don't know, Carla, maybe you would have a different opinion, but I think one thing for us different in COVID is more precise work on sharing answers to common questions. Because if we were in the office and you heard someone answer a question on the phone, we would all stop and have a conversation about that and what the question was about and how we would answer it.
Right.
And now we're getting those conversations either, well, they're all one-on-one, so no one else is hearing you have the conversation about a topic. And two, you have to remember to share that with your other coworkers. And so the sharing is email for the most part. And I have found it's just easier to pick up the phone and have the conversation. But then I have to pick up the phone 8 times. Right? So that part of communication, not that instant take your picture, instant discussion, is delayed. Delayed communication.
I think what you're talking about, Sharon, and one of the things that I've noticed is that I find work more challenging because if I want to talk to a colleague, and in the normal world, I'd get up, walk out of my office, go over to their little world and say, hey, what do you think about this? 3 minutes of talking out loud. Great. Thank you for processing that with me. Let me go do it. Now it's, I got to schedule a meeting or text them to find out if they're available for a call, or, you know, it's the organic communication is not happening at anywhere close to what it was before.
I feel like you need an appointment just to have that 3-minute conversation.
And yeah, in a way, that's the courtesy, right? Because our office is just, you know, you look at everybody's schedule and it's just packed. So finding 3 minutes in someone's day wouldn't be a problem on a normal basis because it's the transitions between meetings, right? But now it's, you don't know what that transition is. And quite frankly, that transition, they've decided to go to their kitchen and grab a snack or something, you know?
So Jeff, do you find that kind of, I don't know if I want to say stifles your creativity or problem solving ability when you have to schedule something, when before it could be just like you said, that 3-minute.
This is what I'm thinking about right now. Yeah, I think so, right? Like, ooh, I have an idea. I want to go run that past some people. I'm famous for that. Like, I got an idea. I want to run it past. I'll walk in and Michelle Harvey will be like, no, Jeff, that's a dumb idea. Move on. And I'll be like, thank you. I just thought it was neat, but you're right. It's a dumb idea. Now I have to schedule a meeting to find out that my idea is not very good. So I think that's, you know, I think that's the challenge more than anything else.
Well, I think we're finding, like, with distance, we're just having that communication barrier. Like, we're more isolated, so it just presents more challenges on how we're able to communicate.
I know when we had the gauntlet, you know, and everybody was in their cars, it was so refreshing just to see the faces, just to be in the physical presence of a lot of the people that I love and care about. And, you know, it's a level of communicating, you know, that you can't get in a Zoom room. You just can't.
The energy level is different.
Yeah.
I'll remind you all of a moment that you might have lived, and if so, how does this connect to that? But right after we were all sent home, and there's that anxiety that happens in that first time you had a Zoom contact with a family member or a sibling or something like that, and you got to see everybody's face and to go, oh, okay, you're okay, and you're okay, and I can see you're all okay. Okay, good. You can take a little bit deeper breath just to get the visual, because you call everybody that week and, yeah, I'm fine, but everybody's dealing with the same level of anxiety because it happens so fast, right? Maybe I'm just talking for myself, but I certainly remember that.
Absolutely. Agree. Yeah.
The first feeling of you're all right.
Have you found, and like maybe this is even thinking pre-COVID, have there been any challenges in utilizing your communication skill maybe to others who don't have that? And like what challenges have maybe you seen in some of the interactions with others?
That's a good question. I won't let other people answer, but just immediately thought of that course continuity guide that we developed. And of course, it's 44 pages long. So you can tell a communicator was one of the ones involved in writing that darn thing. But it had to be there. I mean, all of it was there. And the table of contents, we tried to make very clear so people could just jump right to. And we gave instructions on how to do Control F to find what you're looking for. But that resource was a lifesaver for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I don't claim ownership. I mean, I was instrumental in helping, but Lisa, Cheryl, and I, and we used documents that were Creative Commons licensed, so it wasn't just out of our own heads, but it was an extremely important communication tool.
Yeah. One of the things you do, Sharon, that I appreciate so much is when you send out a message, your first sentence is, if you don't use this, just delete it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so appreciative of that because I'm like, oh, it's coming from Sharon. Oh no, I don't use
I don't
Moodle.
have to write back.
I'm just going to go right on to the next thing. And I'm appreciative of that.
Well, you're welcome.
Is there anything else about communication that anybody wanted to share or wanted to discuss or felt like, can I ask a question about communication? You got two coaches here.
I always wonder what the difference is between that and woo for me. Like they kind of go together. Like I think I feel like you use one for the other. They're just so entwined, and maybe just because it's me.
Yeah.
And I have them both.
Maybe those that don't have woo might be able to answer differently, but to me, woo is about a need for somebody to give you a like or give you a response or give you something back, like or your desire to win somebody over is driving your communication. And others that don't have woo might be like, I don't need that affirmation. I don't need that. I need to share.
Well, and you probably use both. Like when you're winning others over, you're probably either telling a really good story or you're just in general a good conversationalist. So like you probably utilize your communication strengths in order to win others over. So they kind of go hand in hand, depending on the situations that you're in.
Well, and when you ask the question, how is it different? That's one thing. Send way more emails, maybe get a percentage back. And so, why? But then, is that my woo or is that my communicator?
Right.
Which part kicks in there, like, when you're analyzing it? Like, it's probably more the woo than I communicated something.
And it could be that they're just married together, Sharon. We're all one person. They don't live in isolation, right? They're all connected. My woo and my relator are very much intertwined with each other. And I'm trying to build relationships through getting people to like me on a regular basis, and that's important to me. I don't know if there's a way to divorce them from each other.
If you figure it out, let me know.
I mean, I think the question is, why does it matter? Because you're the sum of all your parts, and you're amazing at communicating and winning others over. And what your gift is when dealing with your job, you're able to communicate effectively, sometimes bad news, in a way that gets people to still be like, oh, okay, well, I still like you, and I still care about you, and I still care about the institution, and I still, it's not a personal thing. So I don't know if they need to be separated. To me, they don't. But, all right, well, on that, we're at right near our 30 minutes, and we'll just wrap it up today and be good. This Zoom link, if you want to save it, does come to every Wednesday at 3:30. This is the same Zoom link, so you can use this one over and over. What are we doing next week, Brent?
We're doing developer next week.
Ooh, developer. So you can learn how to make people better.
Well, I think I'll be at that one too.
All right.
Awesome.
Sharon, I think you and I are joined at the
I
hip.
think we're joined at the hip.
I love
Scary.
it.
You know who else, Sharon? You know another person that shares a lot in common with us is Donovan DeYoung.
Yes.
I
Well, maybe the two of you will have to set up a separate Zoom call to just chat about things and think about all your shared strengths.
No. We're talking about communication. So you can start writing your story about your strengths and how they work together. You could build upon a story with each other.
There you go.
I want to know if the other three here, if as a communicator, did you ever want to be a writer? Did you ever write novels or write a book, or do you ever want to do that? Did you ever dream of doing that? No.
Not writing. I just want to have a conversation with somebody.
Really? Yeah.
So I obviously deal with communication with writing. Like that's a big part of it for me then, because I have always thought that. But that's when I read those things, that's where I get the picture. Right? You get your own movie when you read a book.
I love it.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you next week for Developer.
Sounds good.
Everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye-bye.